Hello again, everybody. Great to have you along as we welcome you to yet another edition of Journey Through Sports and Life. I'm Scott Murray, along with the dynamic duo. We're talking about the M&M twins. Hello, girls. How are you?
Doing good, Scott. How are you doing?
Good. Say hello.
Yeah.
That's Marnie and Marjorie.
And yes, I'm doing great. I'm really interested to see what Steve has to tell us today.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to let Marnie introduce him and take it away, my friend. It's all yours. Who's our special guest?
Our special guest today is my good friend, Steve Gliner. Steve has spent over 30 years in baseball, in minor league baseball, and he's one of the greats. He knows how to serve hot dogs at the concession stand, cover the field when it's raining, make sure that the fans are having a great time, and is excellent with player development. And I'm really excited to have Steve on, and he can tell us everything about minor league baseball that we ever wanted to know.
That sounds
Steve,
good.
Did she get it right?
She did. Well, Marnie, that's a great introduction. I appreciate that. And it's great to see everybody. And thanks for having me on today.
Thanks.
Well, we're delighted to welcome you, Steve. Marnie, you go ahead and tell us how you first met Steve and kind of go from there.
Well, when I think about the name of our show, Journey Through Sports and Life, the first name that really comes to mind is Steve. He has definitely had a journey through sports and life. It really has been his life and his family's life. I met Steve a couple years ago working with minor league baseball and a foundation that I had called Keep On Playing, which we were working with minor league teams and bringing kids in the community to baseball games and then getting them clinics and really having them enjoy the whole idea of baseball. And when I first reached out to Steve and told him what I wanted to do, he immediately said, yes, whatever you need. We love the idea of getting kids in the community, especially the Boys and Girls Club, to show up at our games. We'll give you tickets. We'll give them hot dogs. We'll give them an on-the-field experience. And we're going to really help you as much as we can. And he did all of that and more. So Steve has really been a great friend, and he loves baseball, and he loves getting kids and families in the community to enjoy the sport as well. And he's a great family man, and certainly somebody that has been a leader both on the field and off the field.
Well, I tell you what, when it comes to introductions, I don't know if it can get much better than that, Steve. Huh?
Yeah, no kidding. That was pretty impressive.
It really was. Well, I tell you what, Steve, we are all delighted to have you on board today. And we can't thank you enough for stopping by for this edition of Journey Through Sports and Life. But Marjorie and Marnie and yours truly always have to take a little break right here at the beginning. Let everybody know who our special guest is. Then we'll take a little time out, and then we'll be back to talk to our special guest, Steve Gliner. Okay, did I get the last name right? Is that right?
Gliner. Yes, sir.
Gliner, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Our special guest here on Journey Through Sports and Life. We're back right after this. Welcome back as we welcome our special guest, Steve Gliner, our special guest here on this edition of Journey Through Sports and Life. Marjorie and Marnie and yours truly, Scott. And I'll tell you what, Marnie, take it away. And I know Marjorie's got lots of questions as well. Go for it.
All right. So, Steve, how did you learn to love baseball? How did that happen?
Started at a young age. I grew up in a house full of Mets fans. And I went to my first baseball game. I think I was probably 6 years old. My parents took me to Shea Stadium. But, you know, I grew up at a time when the Mets were coming off that 69 and 73 run of being really good. And then all of a sudden they weren't very good. And the Yankees started becoming really good. And, you know, I kind of gravitated towards the team that was winning. So 1976, the Yankees won the pennant and went to the World Series. And I was 9 years old and I was hooked. And that was where it really began for me. I've been a lifelong Yankees fan. And, you know, when I was going to school at State University of Albany, and I found out the Yankees had their AA farm team located right in town, I was going for a communication degree and a business minor. And I was like, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to turn this into something that becomes a career? And something clicked in my head one day where I thought maybe I could go work in baseball. And I didn't know what that meant exactly. But I went down to the ballpark and asked for an opportunity, but it wasn't the first time that I went there where they offered me something. It was about 7 times later. I kept going back. It was a situation of
Right.
significant persistence, which I tell my kids the story all the time and they still think I'm insane. But all these years later, it paid off, and still working in baseball. And I mean, there's a lot more detail to that, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. And to be able to work in an industry that I've, for a game that I've loved since a young age, it's a blessing. It really is. And they always say if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I think I got that right. But that's how I feel like it goes working in baseball.
So Steve, when I was growing up, baseball was a father-daughter thing. My father, he pitched in college, and then when I was about 8, 9 years old, he taught me how to catch his curveball, and it was just a really wonderful experience. He was a World War II veteran, and I just have so many wonderful, fond memories of our connection through sports. And was it something like that? You said you went to your first Yankees game. Did you go with family? Did you go with what was the experience like for you?
It was actually a Mets game. Again, my family they were a household full of Mets fans, and so
Right, but was there one person, or was there deeper than just your household and going to a game? Was there anything that was a little bit more of a pull, the way I had that experience with my father?
I am certain that it was walking into Shea Stadium for the first time and seeing the enormity of a Major League Baseball stadium, and smelling the grass and seeing the colors and taking in the atmosphere of what goes on at a game. I have very photographic memories of going to that first game. And again, I think it was 1974. And then every subsequent game after that, like almost every game I've been to, not the ones I've worked per se, but like the Major League games that I've gone to, and even minor league games, I can almost recall something from each one of those experiences. That's where I know there was a connection there that literally has become a lifelong journey for me, both from a career standpoint and from the love of the game.
Was there a player at that time that you kind of like to follow or get the baseball cards or anything like that?
Yeah, like I said, where it started really becoming more about the team, it was the Yankees. And Thurman Munson was the first player that I remember really gravitating towards. Just the way Thurman played the game and the grit that he showed and the competitive edge that he had. And I don't know that you see a lot of players play the game like he did. And I'll never forget, I was in summer camp in 1979. And I know exactly where it was when I heard about the plane crash, and it crushed me. And
oh yeah, that was devastating.
to this day, every time August 2nd rolls around, I always think about that day, because that's the anniversary of when he passed.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So even to think about it all these years later, it really did he left quite an impression on you. So how did you said that you were persistent and everything. So tell us about those early experiences and when you knew this was going to be your career, that you were not going to leave baseball.
So as I said before, I was going to school for a communication degree of a business minor, but I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. And when I found out the Yankees, I had transferred from SUNY Buffalo to SUNY Albany in the fall of '87, and had found out that the Yankees had their farm team in Albany, and it was about a 12-minute ride from the campus. And so January rolls around of my second semester at school, and I just decided I'm going to go down to the ballpark. I'm going to drive there one day. It was in January. It was snowy. I remember there was snow on the ground, and it was cold, and it certainly didn't look like baseball weather by any means. And I literally showed up at the stadium. The office was underneath the home plate grandstand. It was just a little, 5,500 seat minor league ballpark that you could, certainly imagine in the 1980s. It wasn't elaborate by any means, but I went up to the door. I knocked on the door, and I literally said, "Hey, I would love to have an opportunity to work here." And they literally said, "Well, we don't have anything for you right now." and I said, "Okay, maybe I caught them on a bad day." And every Friday I had one class that was first thing in the morning, and then when it would finish up, I'd get back in the car and go over there. And it was like 7 weeks in a row. I tried this on a Friday at about 11.
And you were talking to the same person every time?
Literally the same person every time. And I think he just got tired of me showing up every week. And he said, you know what, fine, we'll find something for you to do. And that was in March now, and it was like about a month before the season began. So
Mhm.
it was great. I came back the following week. I'll never forget my first day. They put me in a room with all the season ticket packages, and they said, sort all these out and arrange them so that we could deliver them. And I spent, probably 4 or 5 days in there just sorting season tickets and setting them up for delivery. And then they handed me a AAA triptych, if you know what that is. And it was the GPS system of the 1980s, I guess. And
Deliver them.
they asked me to deliver them, right?
Yeah.
They said, here's $20, go fill your car with gas and go. And here's the list and here's the map. And
I bet you were thrilled.
I was. It was the great.
Mhm.
I mean, I was working in baseball.
Exactly. Mhm.
And then the season started. We were snowed out opening night. We opened the next night. It was 34 degrees at game time. The field was frozen.
Wow.
People were wrapped up like mummies. It was not baseball weather by any means, but I think within 10 days of working in that first season in 1988, I knew this was something I wanted to do long term. Like I just, it was a driving passion. And now it came down to, what's the roadmap for me going to be? How am I going to get to the ultimate goal, which was to be a GM of a team? And I literally would ask people who worked in the office. I would show up with a notebook, kind of like this one, and my pen, and I still carry notebooks to this day and take notes by hand. And I still have those pages of literally interviewing, like we're doing right now, and talking to people that were working for that team and asking them what they did and what drives them and what are the things that are important to them and what are the things you look
Oh,
for
this is
in the
wonderful.
people that you hire and that you bring onto the team. And for me, it was, I wanted people to be an open book, and they were. I was surrounded by so many great people that first couple of seasons in Albany, that just gave me so much information, and it really helped mold my career moving forward. And my mentor, the gentleman that I harassed into this opportunity, his name was Rip Rowan. And Rip was my biggest champion. I mean, he really was. He gave me opportunities that, for a kid still in college, I think to this day, we're probably brave. Hey, go write these press releases. Call the Yankees. Ask them for this information. Like, that's pretty cool when you're still in college and you don't even have the job yet. It was basically an internship. And for me going forward, I always remembered that, and I always wanted to be able to give back that same way to young people coming into the game, and
God,
give
that
them
is
opportunities
incredible.
and give them
Have you talked to Rip in recent time?
Rip passed away about 7 or 8 years ago, but we did keep in touch.
Okay.
Especially when I came back, so I was in Albany, then I went out to Charleston, South Carolina for 4 years, and then when I came here in '94 when we started the Renegades, I did get to see him again on occasion over the 10 years I was here during my first run through Hudson Valley. So and I would always tell him, I would always thank him. I would say, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you giving me the chance and the opportunity to live and learn the game and understand what goes on.
Well, let me tell you something, Steve. I'm going to date myself here, but Rip Rowan was my competition in Albany, New York. My first job in television as a kid just out of college.
So yeah, I mean, Ripper was on TV 10,
Yep.
WTEN.
Yeah, I was on 13, and you remember Bob McNamara?
Oh my gosh, of course.
McNamara was at 8, Rip was at 10, and I was at 13. I was at the ABC affiliate at the time, and I was only there for a short period of time.
What year was that?
That was 1980.
Okay, so it's before my time then. So
At
how
1980.
cool was that? How cool was that? That's
1980,
awesome.
and then I came to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and have been here ever since in 1981. So I was just a punk kid just out of school, and here Rip Rowan, and he could not have been nicer to me as far as competition. I don't know if there's anybody over the years that I've met that was, he kind of took me under his wing, even though he was the competition, because he knew I was just a punk kid. And he'd been doing this for a while. And just as he was your mentor of sorts, he did the same thing for me, even though we were competing against each other. So when you said Rip Rowan, I said, oh my gosh, unbelievable.
And I'm not surprised to hear that. And he was such a giving person of his time and his knowledge and his experiences. And you know, that's the kind of stuff that's ingrained in me, and that made me want to mentor other people coming up through our game, just the same as he did for me. And
Right.
a special person right there, and a huge, bigger than life personality, right? I mean,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I tell you what, Steve, we're going to have to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more with this edition of Journey Through Sports and Life. So don't go away. Welcome back as we continue on with yet another edition of Journey Through Sports and Life. Scott and Marjorie and Marnie and our special guest. Steve, are you there? Are you ready? Are you still having fun? We didn't scare you away yet? All right.
having a blast.
That's great. Great to have you on board. Marnie, you want to kick us off this segment?
I would love to. All right. So, Steve, you're in Albany and you're working for the Yankees, and then you say you want to be a GM. So, what path did you take? I mean, how did you figure that out? Like, how did you get to where you are now?
So again, it was something that kind of clicked in my head maybe about 10 days into me working with the team. Just the ability to have your fingerprints on an entire operation, from every aspect of everything that goes on. It just fascinated me. I was like, to be able to help mold and create something like this each year, because every year is kind of a clean slate. You know, the season ends and then we start all over again. And so when I got there, they had already planned for the 88 season. It was March that we were getting ready to go. But after the 88 season and then 89, we're starting to plan for 89. I was there. I went through the entire off season, even though I was a senior at school. I would show up at the ballpark 3-4 days a week for 3 or 4 hours a day. And again, just do whatever I could to help in the planning for the 89 season. And so at that point already, I had already known that I wanted to be a GM. And you know, for me, there was a few people on the staff there that had said to me, you really should kind of get some experience in every facet of the operation, because if you're going to run a team someday, you want to be able to speak from personal firsthand experience and not say, I think this is how you should do it.
Yeah.
But you could say, I actually did this, so I understand. I walked in your shoes. And again, it may not be the exact same scenario depending on the team you're at, the market size and all that. But if you have enough just basic experience, then that really helps you. And that was my roadmap. And I didn't fast track it either. I had an opportunity to be a GM maybe 4 or 5 years after I started. I personally didn't feel I was ready. I didn't have enough experience in certain facets of what I wanted to do first. And so even though I interviewed for a couple of opportunities, I knew right away, even during the interview process, you know what, not quite polished yet. So I want to keep going before I know I'm ready for that. And so that was part of the process, was trying to get experience in every facet of an operation. And I did that over several years leading up to that.
So it's impressive, I think, that you interviewed people, you found out what you had to do to get to where you wanted to go. You worked toward that, you were patient. So you had this incredible roadmap. Now you're sitting in a couple of opportunities to do that, and you feel like you're not ready. So do you see that in young people today, or are they in a hurry? Are they as patient as you were to get what you needed first? Or do you see people now kind of in a hurry to get to that spot, less patient?
Yeah, I think it varies, but I think more often than not, there are people that think they're ready and maybe they're not quite ready. And there's nothing wrong with baptism by fire, right? I mean, you know, sometimes you're in a position and you're learning on the go. But, you know, for me, it was a personal preference. And, you know, I'm glad I took that path. And I wouldn't necessarily say to somebody, unless I totally felt like they're just missing a lot of key components of development. You know, it's no different than a player coming up through the minor leagues, right? You know, I kind of look at it as the same way. For front office types, sometimes you need that development in the same way. And so I think a lot of people try to fast track their careers. I wouldn't recommend it, though. I think it was really, for me, it was really beneficial to get experience in all those different facets of running a team. And honestly, by the time I became a GM, I think the only thing I hadn't done was wear a mascot costume, which I got to do in Fort Myers, by the way. So, but and be a bat boy. But I actually was a clubhouse manager for 10 days, helping out the team once. I did marketing, I did sales, I did tickets, I did bookkeeping. I mean, every facet of what goes on behind the scenes.
Sessions.
Yeah, right. Food and beverage, a very key component. I did that in Charleston and in an old ballpark in some of the most obsolete setting that you could imagine.
Wow.
Our roller grill was like our biggest piece of equipment down there for hot dogs.
So oh, I'm sorry. So you become a GM. What was the biggest surprise? Something, because people often say, this is what I want to be. And then when they become it, it's a little different from what they anticipated. So what was one of your biggest surprises? Like, well, I didn't see this.
And I don't want to sound like confident or anything, but there weren't too many because again, of that specific path that I took, I really, even probably the biggest thing that becomes the most difficult is being the person in charge of everybody. That's a little overwhelming if you haven't done it before. I mean, I was managing departments, so it was like a component of the entire piece. But once you're overseeing the entire team and every part of the operation, that's a lot of organization. And I was organized, but yet, you really have to dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure that every piece of the operation, every department is running efficiently and smooth and to the point of where it's a well-oiled machine. And so that was that to me was the most learning on the go that I had, was because I just never had that opportunity to have to do that before. Like that's the baptism by fire right there.
I would imagine that, that would, how do you get that experience until you get that experience?
Right. Until you do it. And that's when you really figure it out as you go.
So is there some aspect that you just didn't like at all?
Rain.
Oh, okay.
But I will say this, one of the talents that I've been able to develop over the years and really did this very well in Fort Myers, Florida, was becoming a weather person. Like literally, I was more accurate than the weather people on television. We really, in Florida, in the summertime, you could set your clock to it every afternoon, sometime between 3 and 8 p.m. It's going to rain.
Yeah.
Southwest Florida, and knowing when that's coming and making sure that you get your field covered, because if you don't cover your field, you're not playing that night. And if you don't play, you don't have incoming revenue. If you don't have incoming revenue, well, there's other issues. So how to get really good at predicting weather, and it's a skill that has served me very well over the years, down there especially, but even to today up here in Hudson Valley as well.
So if you're standing on a street corner and all of a sudden you pull out your umbrella, everybody knows he knows something we don't. We better get our umbrellas out.
I'll tell you a funny story. So I would say probably for the last 15 years, anytime I've had a new manager, field managers, sometimes you're a couple of months into the season and, we haven't had a day off in 25 days and the guys just need a night off, and so you look up in the sky and it's cloudy. Yeah, we think it's going to rain all night. We probably shouldn't start the game. And I'm like, no, we're going to be fine. And they're like, no, we really don't think we're going to be able to play tonight. And, and then they go, okay, fine. And then we're fine. Or maybe even vice versa. But nonetheless, I would always give them the benefit of the doubt on the first run through when I show them, hey, I could do this. You got to trust me. And then they're like, okay, you got this. We're not going to question you anymore. So
no more.
To a T, it happened every time like that.
Who were mentors of sorts? As you sit here now, Steve, with us, and you think to yourself, some of the people that really made a difference in my life. You talked about Ripper, the Rip back in Albany, New York, the broadcaster on the CBS. But I just, over and above that, people along the way, might have been in the Yankees organization, or people that you haven't even mentioned today, and the difference they made in your life. And had it not been for them, you and I might not be sitting here talking today.
Well, I mean, there's a few avenues to go with that. From a standpoint of my parents, both of whom were very hardworking people and set a really great example of the importance of being persistent and going after your dreams. They never said, working in minor league baseball, especially when you're first getting in, nobody gets rich doing this, even in the later years. Honestly, it's a lot of work, a lot of hours, and they never said, hey, maybe you should look at doing something different. They were always very supportive of my career choice, and never ever said you shouldn't be doing this or you need to do something different. You know, sometimes you hear that a lot. That was very important for me. And my brother, in fact, who works in television, has been doing that his whole career and started off also, you know, working in the mailroom at an edit house. And so, you know, those are the types of lessons I've been able to impart on my kids. And also, you know, people that have come to work for the teams that I've been a part of, and just telling them that, you know, hey, it's not handed to you. You have to work hard. You have to have a path. You have to have your roadmap. You have to learn how to develop your skill sets and build to whatever it is you're looking to do. And I'm always going to be there to help you. And I really try to do that for anybody I come across in this business. Minor league baseball has been really good at the winter meetings up until a few years ago when COVID started. They used to have something called Professional Baseball Employment Opportunities, PBEO. And I always loved speaking at those sessions and doing some roundtables with people who just wanted to get into the game and pick my brain. And I'm always, you know, I get inquiries on LinkedIn all the time, and I'll take pretty much every one of those and spend 20, 30 minutes with somebody on a LinkedIn call or, you know, a Zoom call from LinkedIn, a LinkedIn connection, just asking, you know, how did you get your start? What were the things that were important to you? What are the things that are important to you as a general manager or a team president when you're looking to hire somebody? Like, some of the questions that I get asked are really well thought out. And,
what are they? What would the answer be to that?
Work hard and have a roadmap. You know, I mean, all the things we've just been talking about. And you know, look, everybody has their own way and their own path that they want to do it. But if they're asking me for my advice, I'm going to tell them what worked for me, and you know, I've seen it work for others too.
Well, the reason I asked that question is this is the first time I've met you, and you know, Marnie knows you, but Marjorie and I did not know you. But all the people that we get a chance to talk to here on Journey Through Sports and Life, or just in life in general, out in the real world, and you can spot people pretty much just on just first impression on this guy's kind of full of himself, or this guy really knows what he's doing, or what a kind, gentle person this guy is. Boy, is he ever respectful. And that's unique. That's different. That doesn't happen very often. Just all those things that I just shared with you. And I must say, first impression, you come across to me as somebody that really cares about making a difference, but at the same time, helping others make a difference. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of people like that in this world. So my hat's off to you. Good for you. And you know, no, really, so I just wondered someday when people look back and talk about Steve and what he did as a kid growing up, from the time he was with Rip Rowan back in Albany to, you know, 40, 50 years later, what would you like your legacy to be? What comes to mind? What's really important to you that you kind of share with others? Anything else come to mind?
You know, you kind of hit it on the head, and thank you for pointing that out, because I really feel like that, to me, has been one of the most important things in my career, is to give back to others who are trying to follow the same path and get to where I've been fortunate to be at.
Well, I tell you what, hold that thought. I want to hear what you're going to say. They just gave me the word. We got to take a break. We're coming back with more of Journey Through Sports and Life. Welcome back as we continue on with Journey Through Sports and Life. Steve, we interrupted you there at the end as you started to tell us about your legacy and just all the things that you'd like to share, but of course, how you've come to be the kind of guy that you are, and the message that you'd like to share with everybody and leave with everybody. What comes to mind?
Well, so, you know, a few things. One, I've really enjoyed being able to help others come up through their careers specifically in minor league baseball, because that's what I've been doing my whole career. But, you know, one of the other great things of working in minor league baseball that we get to do, it's how Marnie and I first got together, and it's all part of giving back to the communities that we are a part of. And when Marnie came to me with the concept of what she was doing, like she mentioned, it was just such a quick and easy, yes, I'm in, let's go. To be able to, you know, partner up and, you know, I'll never forget, Marnie, you know, you came into Fort Myers, you got off the plane. I think within 20 minutes, you had 3 meetings set up, and you were all over the place, and you came back after one day and was like, okay, I've got this set up, this set up, this set up. Here's what we're going to do. Boom, boom, boom. And I was like, okay, plug and play. Let's go. This is easy. Yeah, you're going to do this.
Hey, guess what, Steve? She hasn't changed.
No,
I was going to say, that's Marnie. Yeah.
And the mayor of Fort Myers, Mayor Henderson, he gave us a full day of minor league baseball, which was a very wonderful thing that Steve helped to facilitate. So that was great. Yeah.
And it was awesome. And you know, to this day, I hope we could, once again, I know we talked about it, and then the pandemic came around, and that kind of, you know, stopped things on a dime there. But maybe one of these days we're going to be able to work together again and do something here.
Yes, you know it.
It would be outstanding.
Wiggle room, Steve. So we're doing it.
There you go. But you know, that's probably the other part of my favorite thing to do is to be a part of our communities and give back to our communities that we are fortunate enough to be a part of. And you know, doing something like this was just phenomenal. And it you know, we have of all the teams I've always been a part of, we always try to have somebody on our staff that their main job is to go out and find causes in our community that we can partner with and be a part of and give back to and help grow and help bring recognition to. And you know, one of the great things with the Yankees, they do something each year called Hope Week. And becoming a Yankees affiliate, one of the greatest things I was so excited about was being able to take part in their Hope Week. In the last 2 years, we've been able to do it. And just, again, having our players this year, especially being able to take our players out into the community 5 days in a row and taking part in different causes and different efforts and helping out and lend a helping hand and bring some recognition to causes in our community that matter and that are really important. So all really big parts of my story and my career that have been meaningful to me.
So how about some fun stories here then? What are some maybe fun stories that you experienced? Some of the best players that came out of the leagues when, you know, while you were affiliated. What are some of your, you know, anecdotes?
So what do we have, like 6 minutes left?
Yeah, I know. We probably should have.
Well, there's a lot of stories to tell. I mean, you know, from a player perspective, I've worked with some really great players over the years, some of whom you may never have heard of, and some of whom you have heard of. And there's all kinds of different stories to tell. I mean, you know, Marnie, you think of some of the players that we worked with in Fort Myers the few years we were together down there, and the things that we did in the community, and the players, you know, Trey Vavro is one that comes to mind, who, you know, just loved being a part of the community, and anything we asked, you know, he was out there. He was like, where do we go? Where do we need to be? What are we doing today? Love players like that understand that point. You know, I think of over the years, people in the game. Bill Smith with the Minnesota Twins, who eventually became the GM of the Twins for a few years. Bill is a lifelong baseball person, and he started off as a minor league GM, and his story really parallels mine a little bit, just from the things that are important. And we would have these really lengthy conversations, and to this day we still keep in touch. And he's no longer working in baseball, he's retired now, but you know, the things that were important to him were the same things that were important to me, and we hit it off really well. And just a wonderful person. Again, another mentor. You know, Skip Weissman, who was our GM here in Hudson Valley, who gave me the opportunity to get my first GM job here, because he elevated to team president, and I was able to work with him for a few years and kind of segue into my role with somebody I trusted and loved working with, to help me get through those first couple of years, to get that experience going. You know, Rick Zolzer, who was our PA announcer here and our vice president of the Renegades, and he's somebody I've learned so much from. He knows entertainment really, really well, and he's done it for a long time. And just, he's the first person that I really learned about how to entertain 4,000 people every night. Like, he just had it down to a science, and the importance of that aspect of what we do. And to this day, he's still involved with that here. I could go on and on and on. I mean, the list of people, there's so many names that pop into my head right now, but that's the beautiful thing about working in sports. And Marnie knows this. I mean, you've had a lifelong experience with that. You know, when you're really in the trenches with these people, you find out things that maybe those as fans don't really know about them. Maybe they have a different perspective of what a lot of these people are about, and yet we get to see the side of them that maybe people don't get to see, and we get to experience that and enjoy it too. I mean, it really is a blessing to to be able to work in sports and to be able to be around something that you really love and to be able to give back as well in your community.
Let me ask you this, Steve. You talk about all the things that you've shared with us here in close to an hour now, and I just I'm most impressed, as I said a moment ago, about the way you've done it in such a positive, productive way. And yet, I'm sure someone like yourself, you talked about Marnie, and Marnie's much the same. Well, for that matter, all three of us are. We're just always focused on trying to move on to the next best thing. Okay, now what can we do? How about you? There's got to be some things out there that you as yet have not done in your incredible life and what you've done. Since you said earlier in the show, mom and dad were there to say, work hard, stay focused, get it done, move forward, and be the best that you can be. And you obviously have done that, but there are still some things I'm sure out there that are on the plate. You know what? Someday I want to get this done. What comes to mind?
It's kind of interesting for me. It was that little moment in the last year or so where I decided that, a lot of things I missed in my career because I've been so career focused. And like I said, my wife's and my schedules have been opposite. It was, how do I find a way to stay in the game and get out of the 66 home game schedule that I've been married to for 35 years, and still be a productive part of working in baseball in particular. And I'm fortunate to work for a group that I had a conversation with my boss this summer, and I said, hey, I had this light bulb moment, and I really want to find a way to transition out of this really, really busy lifestyle after all these years and do some bucket list things with my wife and my kids. What is the path that I can take to be able to accomplish that and still stay in the game? And that's how we came up with this new role for me, which is something I had experience with in Fort Myers when we got to rebuild our stadium down there and elevate it to many levels higher than where it was. And now it's a beautiful complex down there. I got a lot of great experience with that. And now we have those needs here. So I'm focusing on those projects. And that's allowing me to have some flex time this upcoming summer. It's going to, the only other time in the last 35 years that I didn't have a summer with baseball was the pandemic year of 2020. And I'm not going to really count that because we were kind of locked in our homes. It's not like I could go do anything. So I'm really excited about this coming summer. My wife and I, we have some trips planned that we're going to take.
Nice.
It's just, I'm probably going to be a little bit freaked out that I'm not working games every day because I don't know anything different. When the baseball season rolls around, I feel like I need to be at the ballpark every day. So I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to navigate that yet, but I'm sure we'll figure that out as we go. But for me, that's kind of the next step. And then there's some other opportunities that I'm hoping that I can look into and grow that are related to our game, but maybe not directly in a front office role. My new role is as a consultant, so that I could take my experiences and my lengthy career and go ahead and utilize some of that to help other teams grow as well and share some of that knowledge.
We're back right after this. Welcome back as we get ready to wrap things up here on this edition of Journey Through Sports and Life. Marnie and Marjorie and Scott, along with Steve Gliner. And we're just delighted to have you on board, Steve. You've just been great. I know Marjorie's got one final question she'd like to throw your way.
Yes, Steve, what are your thoughts on the grassroots baseball in the United States right now?
I think that's a great question. It's important because one of the things that I really enjoy about working in minor league baseball is the ability to grow our game and to build our next set of fans, build that fan base up. And, there's a lot of competition for baseball just in general, for interest in other sports. Soccer's gotten really big, lacrosse, and of course, you still have the NBA, the NHL, and the NFL. But, from a baseball perspective, I think it's really important that we are getting young people interested in the game. And whether that's working with somebody like Marnie and combining our efforts to go out and bring kids out to the ballpark and get them to experience what we do and provide them that opportunity to have that same first experience like I had all those years ago. Or for us just being involved in our communities and growing the game in that regard, or doing things like our D3 Day, which is our Disability Dream and Do, where we're reaching out to kids with disabilities and showing them that they can play the game as well, and we could adapt it so that they're able to enjoy playing baseball too. So many different ways to go about that, but that's how you grow the fan base, and that's how you get the next generation of fans involved in the game. And it's by going out there and bringing it to them and bringing them to the ballparks and making them a part of it. And you know, again, like I said, I have those very vivid memories of my first time walking into a ballpark. I want to be able to have others get that same feeling the first time they come to games, and I think that's how you do it right from that point.
Yeah. So bottom line is, you're going to be a kid the rest of your life, right?
I'm mentally 12. That's what I tell everybody all the time, no matter what my calendar age is.
There's nothing the matter with that. Nothing the matter with
Not
that.
at all.
Well, we can't thank you enough, Steve. You've been a rock star. You've hit this one right out of the park, in baseball vernacular, as they say, and it's just been above and beyond. So thank you. Marnie, this is a great guest. You've got us here, right here. Steve Gliner, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you all. We really appreciate
Yes.
the opportunity.
Thank you, Steve.
I still have a million questions. You'll have to come
We got
back.
to do another show then.
That's right.
It's a deal. It's a deal. Well, here we are in the month of December. We simply say to you, enjoy the upcoming holidays, Steve, and thanks again. Stay safe, stay well. So until next time, for this edition of Journey Through Sports and Life, I'm Scott Murray, along with
Marjorie Herrera Lewis.
Marnie Schneider.
till next time. Stay safe, everybody.